Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Cherry Pickers Podcast, the show for all things hockey, featuring your hosts, Zuu and Bee Rhodes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The Cherry Pickers Podcast has returned after its lengthy Christmas break. My name is Zuu, and I am co-hosted with my buddy Bee Rhodes. Bee Rhodes, how are you?
I am good, man. It's been a good Christmas break. A lot of family, good time with family and friends, having some good Christmas dinner. We are busy with work, but we are back in action and ready to go for episode number 7 of season 2.
Yeah, it's safe to say me and Bee Rhodes both needed a little bit of an extended holiday. I was also just getting over a sickness as well, so if my voice sounds a little different, that's why. But we're going to power through today's episode, and we're going to have a good time catching you up with the news in the hockey world. So let's start it off, Bee Rhodes, with the most important tournament in Canada, at least for hockey. That is the World Juniors Tournament, and let's talk about the 2023 World Juniors champions, Team Canada. What did you think of the tournament, Brody?
At the start of the tournament, I was a little bit concerned about Team Canada when they lost the Czechs 5-2, but in the end, they ended up going all the way from there and getting the gold medal. But I got to hand it to the Czech Republic. They put on a heck of a tournament. I really didn't think they were going to finish second and get the silver medal, but they were a really good team this year. Normally, they're kind of middle of the pack. They're not really a contender for a medal per se, but they're always a pretty good team, and they can put up a fight and be an upset here and there. Overall, I thought it was a very good tournament. It was super exciting, and Connor Bedard, what a talent that kid is. Breaking the total points record for the World Juniors. This kid is going to be an absolute stud when he gets to the NHL, and yeah, he is a phenomenal player, and it's crazy to think that he's not even 18 years old yet, and he's doing things like that.
Yeah, quickly, before we talk about Connor Bedard, I just wanted to point out, imagine if Team Czech Republic, or no, never mind. I was thinking of Yuri Slavkovsky, but he's Slovakian. Never mind. Totally different person. Let's talk about Bedard, though. Yeah, man, Bedard, it's crazy to think that the dude's not even of age. He's scored every single point for Team Canada with a fishbowl on, and he's already shattered almost all the records. And it's safe to say that this is probably going to be his last World Juniors too, because I don't imagine the team that drafts him this year is going to allow him to go down to the Juniors tournament. Because yeah, he's just put on a clinic. I read his stats somewhere on Twitter recently. Something like in the last 33 games, including the World Juniors and the WHL, he has 80 points. Oh my God, man. This guy is going to be an absolute stud in the NHL. I got a question for you, B. Rhodes. It's pretty obvious that, honestly, he'll probably win the Calder Trophy next year when he plays in the NHL. How do you think his rookie season will go? Obviously dependent on what team drafts him, but how do you think he'll do in his rookie season in the NHL?
I could see him putting up anywhere between 65 to 80 points maybe. I don't think he's going to come in and absolutely light the league up and be like a point per game player right out of the get-go, because he is going to go to a bottom team in the NHL and they're not going to have a whole heck of a lot of talent around him. So if he goes to a team like Anaheim, Chicago, Columbus, Arizona, those kind of teams, I really don't think he's going to explode offensively right out of the gate, but he is a generational talent, and I could see him getting around 65 to 80. That would be my guess, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's going to be deadly on the power play. I think a lot of his points are going to come from the power play. But as for his 5-on-5 game, his defensive side of the game is obviously still lackluster, but that can be developed, obviously. His shot skill, everything like that obviously is natural talent, but the defensive aspect of the game could definitely be taught. But yeah, I agree. I don't imagine him getting much more than 60 points in his rookie year, but I do think a lot of those points are going to come on the power play. I think he's going to be an absolute lethal weapon on the power play. But as for 5-on-5 goes, I don't think he's going to have as much of an impact on the game, but obviously this is all hearsay, and like I said, it all depends on what team gets lucky enough to get first overall to get him. With that said, Beards, who do you think is going to get Connor Bedard?
I see it being the Anaheim Ducks, to be honest. I think they have really not been a very good team this year. I don't think their depth is quite there. They're really struggling in their goal differential spot. I think the last time I checked the standings, it was -70 or something like that. They were getting absolutely lit up. And I don't know. In recent years, it doesn't seem like the team with the best odds to get the first overall pick has got the first overall pick. And right now, I think the team with the best chance is actually Columbus the last time I looked. So the Ducks are like second or third last, somewhere in there. And that is usually the team that does get bumped up to first overall, at least in recent years. And I think the Anaheim Ducks with the center core of Trevor Zegras and Connor Bedard could be absolutely disgusting. Personally, I hope he doesn't go to the Ducks because I don't want Connor Bedard in the division of my favorite team. But I have a feeling it's going to be the Ducks, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I would honestly, like, out of all the teams, I would like him to be on the Ducks. I'd love to see that connection of McTavish and Bedard again after the 22 World Juniors, because those two playing together was something special, and I'd love to see them play together in the NHL. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be like a Columbus or Montreal. I could see Arizona being in the mix, definitely. But yeah, I think preference-wise, like, I'd like to see him on Anaheim as much as I wouldn't because, like you said, he's in the Pacific Division. But I think that's probably the team that I would go with. Moving on now, let's talk about another team in the Pacific Division. Something is smelling fishy, Bee Rhodes. There's a lot of drama going on with the Vancouver Canucks. So, leading up to today, as of recording this, today is January 23rd. As of recording this, the Canucks were obviously underperforming. The Canucks are doing definitely not as good as they'd want to be. For some reason, a lot of the blame has to go towards the coach, especially management is blaming the coach a lot. And which is kind of ironic because the management is the group that puts the team together. The coach is the one that just has to get the best out of them. Regardless of that, the downfall, the wrath of the management has fallen onto Bruce Boudreau, who has just been fired from head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, if you do remember, Bruce Boudreau was hired as the head coach of the Canucks last season. Very, very emotional turn of events. It sounded like Boudreau was aware that his days were numbered with the Canucks, and just some of the remarks that he made in the interviews and stuff like that was honestly pretty upsetting. But nevertheless, Bruce Boudreau was fired from head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, and to replace him is Rick Tocchet. Alongside Rick Tocchet, we're getting Adam Foote as the assistant coach and Sergei Gonchar as the defensive development coach. Now, before we talk about the new coaching staff of the Canucks, Bee Rhodes, I want to talk about Bruce Boudreau a little bit more. What do you think of this firing by the Canucks, and do you think it will work out in their favor?
To be honest with you, I really don't see how it could work out in their favor. Like, I just really don't think the Canucks' roster is built for success. Like, sure, they have some talented players in Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, and Andrei Kuzmenko has been a bright spot for them this season, but the rest of their team, like JT Miller is a solid player, like Bo Horvat, but we don't know what's going to happen with them. For all we know, they could be on the move, but realistically, apart from that, I really don't think they're a very deep team. Like, I think this team is very average. I feel like if they're either going to go, they either got to go all in and buy and like build a really good, strong team, or they just got to tear it apart and just rebuild from the ground up, because where they're sitting right now, I don't think they're going anywhere. And I really don't think Rick Tocchet is going to make much of a major impact that Bruce Boudreau did, because when they got rid of Travis Green, like when they brought in Bruce Boudreau, it was a spark for the Canucks and they were playing really well. I see the same thing happening here with Tocchet. I think it's going to spark them. They're going to play well for a little while, and then I think it's just going to tail off again and just fall off, because I really don't think this team is built for success in the to make a playoff spot and even go deep in the playoffs.
No, I absolutely agree with you there. And that's the big thing, too, is that management also said that realistically everyone is available for trade except for, what was it, Elias Pettersson was like the only one that they weren't willing to trade. But that even includes Quinn Hughes, which is crazy because Quinn Hughes has been the cornerstone for that Canucks team for a few years now. I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Bruce Boudreau as well. Like, he's done, like we've said, he's done as much as he can with the cards that have been dealt to him. I think if this was a different season for Thatcher Demko, I think this would be a completely different Canucks, where they would be in the standings, really. This is one of the seasons that, Thatcher Demko's just got to forget happened. He had such a terrible start and then got that season-ending injury, and I think that would completely make the Canucks look like a different team. But I agree with you. Their depth is very lacking. JT Miller looks like the biggest cancer in the locker room that we've ever seen in the NHL. Bo Horvat's more than likely going to be out, and that's been their leader and their captain for years, and that's probably what's affecting that chemistry too, is that your captain wants out, then you don't really have much faith in your team, you know? So no, I agree with you. I think the same thing will happen as well. I think they'll get a spark when Taka gets behind the bench, but then I think, you know, it's going to expose the weakness and the lack of depth that the Canucks have. But what do you think, B. Rhodes, about Adam Foote and Sergei Gonchar joining the coaching staff for the Canucks?
I like the additions of them for sure. Like, Adam Foote has had a very accomplished career. He was a really good defenseman. I don't know much about his playing career. Was he a part of that team in Colorado?
We were too young.
Yeah, we were very young, but wasn't he a part of that team that won the Stanley Cup in Colorado in 2001?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
So he does have that Stanley Cup experience, and Sergei Gonchar was a very accomplished defenseman. Like, Zach and I grew up watching Sergei Gonchar when he was a really good defenseman for the Penguins. He was like probably a top 10 defenseman in the league, at least at that time.
I'd say top 3, honestly.
Yeah, like, he was really, really good. So that's going to be a huge addition for them on their defensive end. And yeah, like, he's a Stanley Cup champion with the Penguins. And I think it's a really good addition for the Canucks. And definitely new voices behind the bench can't hurt them, as they need to try something new because clearly it's not working for them.
Yeah, I don't know how much of an improvement Rick Tocchet is over top of Bruce Boudreau as the voice of the Canucks, but I do like the additions of Adam Foote and then definitely Sergei Gonchar as well to help out as the defensive development coach. That's aside from like Nick Lidstrom or someone like that, that's the guy you want to help out your defensive development right there. Like we said, Sergei Gonchar is such an established and fantastic defenseman, had a fantastic career with the Penguins, and yeah, like we said, me and B Rhodes are born in '97. So if you're getting mad at us because we don't know too much about Adam Foote's playing career, we're sorry about that. But we were 4 when he won a Stanley Cup. You know what I'm saying? So there's not much we can do about that. But we know the legacy of Adam Foote. We know he was a fantastic shutdown, hard hitting defenseman, and yeah, I think that's definitely what the Canucks need. Like I said, I don't know about Rick Tocchet over Boudreau, but I like the other 2 voices on that bench for the Canucks as well. So, I mentioned Thatcher Demko's injury. Let's talk about a couple more injuries that took place over the last couple months. So let's start it off with the most recent one, Max Pacioretty of the Hurricanes. Now, he came back for 5 games with the Carolina Hurricanes, scored 3 goals in those 5 games, was looking really good, and then tore his Achilles for the second time in the last 5 months. What does an injury like that do for the Carolina Hurricanes, B. Rhodes?
I mean, in terms of the success of the Carolina Hurricanes right now, I don't think it's a huge impact. Like, Carolina's still been a very strong team this year, but anytime you lose a prolific, like, 30-goal scorer, Max Pacioretty, he's been like a consistent 30-goal scorer year after year. That is definitely a big loss. He's a big, strong forward, too. Like, he's hard on pucks. He goes to the net, like, he scores, and yeah, like, anytime you lose a 30-goal scorer, that's definitely going to hinder your roster no matter what team you are. And, like, when you have 2 Achilles injuries in the span of 5 months, that is a huge impact on your career. Like, we saw what happened to Erik Karlsson when Matt Cook caught his Achilles. He was not the same for a very long time, and like, it's probably going to affect his skating for the rest of his career. And Pacioretty's got to be like 33 or 34 by now. Like, he's getting up there. Like, you got to think, like, this is going to have an impact on his career, and for all we know, like, he could retire earlier than later now that he's been impacted like this, because that Achilles injuries affect you really, really bad. So hopefully he'll be able to recover and at least get back to playing the way he can, because he is a very good goal scorer.
Yeah, you make a great point there. Pacioretty, 34 years old, and 2 Achilles injuries in 5 months. Like you said, that is going to affect his skating definitely for the rest of his career. It's going to be interesting to see. I honestly, I wonder too if maybe the Hurricanes look at trading his contract out now. I mean, obviously they would like to have him on the roster, and I think he'd be a great piece, but the Hurricanes, like you said, have been doing good. They're, second in the NHL right now behind Boston, and they're obviously going to look to make a deep playoff push again this year, and that cap space could be used for more assets that could be used right now, because obviously the Hurricanes are in win now mode, and having an injured Pacioretty making almost $7 million isn't really going to do much for you in the playoffs. So I'm wondering if maybe that's a contract that could be expendable for the Hurricanes, but that's also a lot of money to move out. So we'll have to see getting closer to trade deadline what happens there. I'm so excited for the trade deadline. I love those episodes, man. When we did the trade deadline episode last year, that was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to that one too. And we're getting close. We're getting around the corner. But going back to the injuries now, let's talk about the Montreal Canadiens. They had two key young players get injured. The first one being Juraj Slafkovsky, the first overall pick of the Canadiens this last draft. He's out for 3 months with a lower body injury. And then Cole Caulfield, their recent first-round pick as well. Notable. Did he score 40? I think he's a 40-goal scorer now, if I'm not mistaken. Or he's on pace for 40. I don't know. Anyways, he's not anymore because he's out for the season with a shoulder injury. How does this impact those two? Do you think this will impact their careers, these long-term injuries at such a young age? And what will this do for the Canadiens going forward, Brody?
In terms of injuries impacting them long-term, I'm going to say no. I mean, these kids are like 19, 20 years old. Like, when you're that young, it's easier to recover from injuries, and going back to our earlier point about Pacioretty, compared to if you were older, your bones take longer to recover when you are older. So in terms of that, I'm going to say no. In terms of the Canadiens, I really don't think it's going to impact them too much for what they're trying to do, because they're in rebuild mode right now. Like, they're not expected to make the playoffs. I don't think they're trying to really make the playoffs. I think they're just trying to get draft picks right now and develop. And in terms of that, like, missing two of your younger players is going to honestly help, because your team's probably not going to win as much. So yeah, I'm going to say in terms of their injuries, no, I don't think it's going to impact them too bad. And for the Montreal Canadiens' plans going forward, I really don't think this is going to affect it too much. Because like I said, no one expects them to make the playoffs this year. I don't think they're even trying to push for a playoff spot. So yeah, I'm going to say, that's pretty much what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I think with Montreal, like, obviously you don't want to wish an injury on anyone, but this is kind of best case scenario for them. They're losing, two of their, I wouldn't say Slafkovsky is one of their best players, but he obviously, puts up some sort of offensive presence. With Caulfield, though, losing him, that is one of the biggest chunks of your offense, if not the biggest chunk of your offense, and that'll help them get lower in the standings. And this 2023 draft, man, I tell you, it's going to be absolutely loaded. You're not going to miss if you're picking outside the top 10. You're going to get a fantastic player in the top 10. So I think, that's going to help the Montreal Canadiens for sure. But obviously you hate to see the injuries of the young players and hope they can bounce back to the same tempo, if not better, than they have been playing. So. And speaking of injuries, but more importantly, players coming back from injuries, Evander Kane returns to the Edmonton Oilers lineup after his wrist injury. He missed the last 31 games. What does that kind of return do for the Edmonton Oilers roster, Bee Rhodes?
It's a huge addition back to the roster in terms of their top six. Like, missing Evander Kane definitely had an impact on the team's scoring outside of McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, Nugent Hopkins and Zach Hyman have really stepped up in the absence of Evander Kane. They're both already at like 20 goals. They are playing really well this season. But yeah, bringing Evander Kane back is a huge addition. Like, he's a big physical presence. He's a good scorer, like, he can pass the puck. He's a really solid player. And that injury was scary, man. Like, getting your wrist cut by a skate and, like, tendons just being torn from it, man. It's so cringy. Like, when I saw that, I was, like, cringing, seeing the amount of blood coming out of his wrist, like, going back to the bench. And, yeah, those injuries are freak accidents, but, man, they are really scary to see. And yeah, it's a huge addition for the Oilers, especially in the second half of the season. They were in a wild card spot. They weren't really gaining traction, but lately they've been playing well. They've won their last 6 games in a row, and obviously bringing Evander Kane back into the fold is only going to help them going forward. So huge addition for the Oilers going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another one of those big factors for the Edmonton Oilers playing as well as they have been is the return, maybe, of Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell is playing absolutely lights out as of late, and the last few games he's played some really good, 900 hockey, and how does that help the Edmonton Oilers as well in their playoff push?
It's a huge addition. I mean, Jack Campbell, it's no secret he got off to a horrendous start with the Oilers this season, but I think he's he's starting to settle in. He's actually using new equipment, if you didn't already know that. He switched from Vaughn's to Brian's pads, and I think he got a bigger chest protector as well, and obviously he spent a lot of time with their goaltending coach kind of getting adjusted. I think he's just really started to relax a little bit more. Like Stuart Skinner playing really well has definitely helped him being able to take the pressure that, like, I don't have to play lights out every night to give us a chance to win. But now that he's starting to settle in and you have two goalies that can play well for you every night and give you a chance to win, is only going to help you going forward. So I think Jack Campbell establishing his game is a huge help for the Oilers, and it's contributing to their 6-game winning streak, and maybe they can keep the traction going and be on a hot streak come playoff time.
Yeah, I think what you said about with Stuart Skinner and having Stuart Skinner play so good that it makes it so it's not as much pressure on Jack Campbell. I think that's such a great situation for a goalie tandem. It's always competition. Having the competition between two goalies is so good because they just inspire each other to play better. And I think that might be kind of the case with Jack Campbell. Is obviously, you're coming to a new team. And Jack Campbell's such a, humble guy and stuff like that. And you're coming to this new team and you sign this pretty hefty contract and all of a sudden you're not meeting expectations. It gets into your head and it gets you a little flustered off your game kind of thing. And I think the fact that Stuart Skinner's playing so good has to be inspiring Jack Campbell to say, okay, I need to play just as good as this guy because obviously Jack Campbell wishes the best for Stuart Skinner, but Jack Campbell also wants to be that guy, wants to be that starter, right? So I think the fact that Stuart Skinner's playing good is not only good for the Edmonton Oilers, but it's also really good for Jack Campbell as well. So yeah, the Oilers on a heater right now, 6-game winning streak. They took down Tampa Bay. Was that their most recent game? Was Tampa Bay?
Yeah, they beat Tampa Bay 5-3, I believe.
Yeah, that was a really good game, actually. I caught a glimpse of it. It was pretty physical hockey, and that's definitely what the Oilers need to keep rolling to. Is they need to tap into their size and physicality as well. But yeah, they're on a little bit of a heater, and I was excited to see how this end of the season wraps up too. So let's talk about some milestones, Bee Rhodes. Some milestones. This is a big one, the biggest of them all that I have on my list here, at least. Steven Stamkos, 500 career goals. He's only the third active player with 500 goals. Just your thoughts on Steven Stamkos, Bee Rhodes. What do you think about him?
Yeah, Steven Stamkos, he's had a phenomenal career. I mean, he's also had injury problems too back when he was a lot younger, but he's been a consistent 40 goal scorer, 50 goal scorer for the majority of his career. Like, he is a fantastic shooter, and early in his career, apart from Alexander Ovechkin, these two were the two best goal scorers in the league when they were at the beginning of their careers. And Steven Stamkos is a proven champion. He's won, I believe he did not win that Olympic gold in Sochi. He missed that, so never mind on that point. He missed that one, but he's a two-time Stanley Cup champion, and he lost in the Cup final to Colorado last year. So he has been in deep playoff runs. He's been there. He knows how to win a championship. He's a great goal scorer. I think this guy's honestly a lock for the Hall of Fame when he's done his career. He has been a phenomenal player, and he's only he's still got quite a few years left in him. He's 32 right now,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he has had a fantastic career, so it's great to see Steven Stamkos hit 500 goals, and I think he's probably going to finish his career around, I could see 700. I think he can score 200 more. I don't see why not. I think he's going to finish around 700 something when it's all said and done. I think he's a lock for the Hall of Fame too.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of think that if, injuries have obviously played a big factor in his career. He's had some pretty significant injuries, hence why he did not make that Olympic roster. But I think if injuries weren't in place in his career, I definitely think that he could be, closing in on Ovi as well. I think they could be pretty neck and neck. But nevertheless, 500 goals in your career is not something just to bat away. I did fact check it. You're right. He is 32, so he still has quite a bit of playing time left. And like you said as well, man, he has played some hockey. He has made, some deep runs in the playoffs, and he's been all around the game. And just like Ovi as well, he's always open on that freaking one-timer on the power play, man. I don't know how they do it. Everyone knows that the one-timer's coming over at the top of the circle for Ovi and for Stamkos, and they still find a way to get that one-timer off, and they find a way to put it in the back of the net. It's crazy how they're able to do that, but nevertheless, yeah, fantastic goal scorer in Steven Stamkos. Speaking of a couple other goal scorers, we'll talk about a guy in Dallas. You might be familiar with the name, Jason Robertson. Very fantastic shooter as well. He's been on a heater as well this year. He becomes the fastest to 30 goals in Dallas Stars franchise history. What do you think about the season that Jason Robertson's having right now, and his come up? How crazy is it that he kind of just came out of nowhere and he's one of the top scorers in the NHL?
Yeah, he's had a phenomenal season with Dallas. Like he just came out of nowhere. Like you said, he was not even in the conversation last year, and all of a sudden everybody's talking about how he's like a top 10 player in the league, and for good reason. Like this guy, he scores goals, and he scores goals consistently. Like he's a really solid player. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how he just came out of nowhere, but he just did, and that's kind of how some players do it. Like we can we can talk about Tage Thompson in Buffalo. Yeah. This guy did the exact same thing. Nobody knew much about him, and then all of a sudden he just comes out and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna score like 50 goals this year." It's just some players can do that. They'll just come into the league and they'll just light it up, and that's exactly what Jason Robertson's been doing with Dallas.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Tage Thompson. I think his career high before last year was something like 38 points. And then last year he was just shy a point per game, and now he's on pace for over 100 points. And it's crazy how these players just come out of nowhere and just start dominating the game. But Jason Robertson, what an absolute lethal weapon for the Dallas Stars. You can always count on him to score goals. He's good in big time moments. He's a big body as well, which helps him protect the puck and get that shot off. And fantastic goal scorer. Kind of the opposite kind of player, size-wise, we're going to talk about now, is Kirill Kaprizov. He scored his 100th career goal in his 180th career game. That's pretty quick. What do you think about Kirill Kaprizov there, Bee Rhodes?
I think he's honestly a phenomenal player. Like he's probably, I want to say for sure, a top 10 player in the league. Like this guy, he's dynamic. He creates a lot of plays, and he can just score goals like no tomorrow. And I believe he broke the Minnesota Wild single season goal record. I think he broke Gabrick's 42. I believe he got like 43.
He got 43
last
year.
So Kaprizov, like he just creates plays out of nowhere, and he's just a dynamic player. He kind of reminds me a bit of Patrick Kane, but more of like a goal scoring ability. Like he's just as creative as Patrick Kane, I find, but I find he's a better goal scorer than Patrick Kane was. And having 100 career goals in 180 games is a pretty good pace. And who knows, Kaprizov could even be in the same conversation by the end of it with Stamkos and Ovechkin, the way this guy lights it up.
Yeah, 100 goals in 180 games. That's crazy. If he keeps that same pace, it's only going to take him maybe, 1,200 games to get there. I find Kirill Kaprizov to be kind of like a smaller Nathan McKinnon in a sense. With how much energy Kaprizov plays with, he's always moving so fast, just going everywhere. He's always buzzing, got that high energy, and yeah, he's just a fantastic goal scorer, and he's always able to create plays, and he's very crafty. And I feel like he's kind of a little bit of a mix of Patty Kane and Nathan McKinnon. I feel that's kind of what the product is in Kaprizov. So yeah, Kaprizov with 100 goals in 180 career games. And then we had Jason Robertson, 30 goals already on the season, and of course the big one, Steven Stamkos, 500 career goals. Did it in fashion too. He got a hat trick against the Canucks, so he scored 500. He scored his 500. Then it was 501, 502, 503 the next game, which is kind of awesome. So let's talk about a retirement, Bee Rhodes. The Buffalo Sabres retire Ryan Miller's number 30. Now, obviously, such a key player for the Buffalo Sabres, but my favorite thing about the whole ceremony and the night was the ceremonial puck drop for Ryan Miller was between the two goalies, Craig Anderson and John Gibson. I think that's the first time we've ever seen a goalie take a ceremonial puck drop. What do you think about Ryan Miller? What do you think about the Sabres retiring him and that puck drop as well?
I think Ryan Miller has honestly had a fantastic career. I believe he's up there in terms of American goalies for total wins and stuff. I'm not exactly sure where he sits, but he is pretty high up. Like Ryan Miller in the 2010s, he was an absolute beast. Like he was honestly probably a top 3 goalie, top 5 for sure during like the early to mid 2010s. Like he was a phenomenal goalie. And The fact that the Sabres wore the goat head jerseys too on that night that they retired his number is awesome because that's the jersey that he was drafted in and began his career with. And yeah, having two goalies take the ceremonial puck drop, I love it being a goalie myself when I played. I think that's honestly sick. I think it's a pretty cool gesture to Ryan Miller that they did the goalies for the ceremonial puck drop. But again, I think Ryan Miller is going to be a lock for the Hall of Fame if he hasn't already made it there because he's won a Vezina trophy. I'm pretty sure he has. I'd be shocked if he didn't. Yeah, he won an Olympic silver medal in 2010. I'm not sure if he was on the team in 2014. I think he was, but I don't think the States won a medal in that tournament. I think they were like fourth. But anyways, he won in 2010 silver. Very nearly could have been gold, but Sidney Crosby, golden goal, not a big deal. Yeah, so Ryan Miller's had a fantastic career, and it's cool that they honored him with the retirement and the goat head jerseys. And yeah, I think the goalie puck drop was pretty cool too.
Guys, Bee Rhodes knows his stuff. I did a little fact checking. Where is Ryan Miller for all-time wins by an American goalie, Bee Rhodes? Where do you think he is?
Ooh, maybe like third?
Nah, he's number one, man.
Oh, really? Wow.
He is, yeah. 391 wins for Ryan Miller. That is the most by an American goalie. The closest active to him is Jonathan Quick, who's at 367. So it could be passed. Granted, Johnny Quick's got to go on a little bit of a heater because he's getting near the end of his career. But yeah, you were right. You said he was close to the top in American wins, and you were absolutely right. He was the top for wins by an American goalie. So, but yeah, Ryan Miller, I think, honestly, other than Dominik Hasek for the Sabres, I think Ryan Miller is one of the most important goalies the Sabres have had, in their franchise history. He was so good, man. People forget like how good he was with the Sabres in his prime. It was that trade to St. Louis that kind of threw his career for a whirlwind, but yeah, when he was in his prime with the Buffalo Sabres, he was such a good goalie. So, yeah. And it's funny you mentioned the goat head jerseys because we're going to talk about a couple jerseys now. There's two new alternate jerseys that have been released and have been used one time in games so far. So the Vancouver Canucks unveiled their alternate jersey. They went back to the black jersey with the skate logo, the black, red, and yellow color scheme. What do you think about that jersey?
I love that jersey. I think it's so sick. It just gives me like 90s Canucks vibes, like Pavel Bure type vibe. Like I love those jerseys. I think they're so cool, and I'm glad they brought them back. Definitely one of my favorite Canucks jerseys for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely like top 3 Canucks jerseys of all time. And then the Arizona Coyotes. By the way, I'm gonna put all these. I'm gonna put these jerseys up on the screen on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. The Arizona Coyotes revealed a absolutely, in my opinion, gorgeous jersey. It's their maroon color. They use the maroon and the beige colors, and they have Arizona written across it with script writing. Oh, it's such a good jersey, Bee Rhodes. What do you think about that one too?
To be honest, I haven't really seen it that much yet, but just from seeing the picture, I think it looks all right. Like the maroon and beige, you said, it kind of gives off like the desert vibes of the Coyotes. So like I think the color scheme, they nailed it. The font looks pretty cool, but I haven't seen it on the ice, so I can't really give my full on opinion, but I think just from seeing pictures of it, it looks like a pretty cool jersey.
Well, I tell you what, Bee Rhodes, they're 1-0 when wearing it because they wore it last night against the Vegas Golden Knights in Mullet Arena and beat them cleanly 4-1. And yeah, those jerseys look so sick. Karl Vejmelka, though, his pads are so nice with it. They're the pure maroon color. The whole pad is maroon, and then the whole Patrick maroon. Sorry, the whole pad is maroon, and the outer of the pads is like a beige cactus, and it looks so cool. Like you gotta look it up if you haven't seen it yet. Like these are some of the nicest jerseys I've seen this year. Honestly, I am such a fan of these Coyotes jerseys. I just hope that it brings more fans to the games. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's move on to some contract signings now in the NHL. We'll start with the first one. The Bruins signed Pavel Zacha to a 4-year contract with an AAV of 4.75. Do you think this is a good contract, bad contract? What do you think, Bee Rhodes?
I hate to be a fence sitter, but I'm kind of somewhere in the middle on this one. Like, when I first saw the deal announced, I thought it was a little high, like not much, but I was like 4.75 seems just slightly high for Zacha. I was thinking he'd sit maybe more in like the 3.5 to 4 range maybe. But I think this contract might age pretty well because obviously like the cap should be going up. So I don't think it's not a contract that hinders them in any way. But for me, I don't know. Like Zach is a decent player for sure, but I don't know. When I just saw it, I thought 4.75 just seemed like a hair high.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it too. If you look at Zach's stats last year with the Devils before he got traded for that 1-for-1 deal with Eric Holla, in 70 games he had 36 points, 15 of those 36 being goals, which is not bad, but he was a minus 21. So if you take that on the surface level, yeah, it does seem a little high to give him 4.75. But you look at his stats this year with the Bruins, he's got 30 points in 46 games, so he's almost at that exact same amount of points by playing, 24 less games. He's a plus 14 this year, which is a definite increase from last year's stats. But he's also only 25, which is huge because obviously he's going to get a lot better. And yeah, I think if the cap does go up, I really don't think this deal hurts Boston that much. But it all depends on the consistency. If he can keep playing at this, he's got 30 points in 46 games. If he can keep playing at this pace, I think 4.75 is honestly going to be kind of a steal for the Bruins. So, I don't know. Not a bad little contract. The next one, man. The next one is crazy. So the Minnesota Wild signed Matt Boldy to a contract, and this is not a small number contract. It's a 7x7. 7 years with an AAV of $7 million. Now, Matt Boldy's only 21 years old. Bee Rhodes, what do you think of this signing by the Wild?
So for Matt Boldy, like 7x7, I don't really have a problem with it because I'm gonna give this an example. Like the New Jersey Devils, they gave Jack Hughes an 8x8 pretty early in his career. However, I am going to bring up this point, and for all of you fans who think Minnesota's good right now, trust me, they are not going to be in the next few years. They are about to be in cap hell. They bought out Zach Parise and Ryan Suter, and for those of you who do not know, they signed identical deals. I'm not sure. I think it was like 2012 or 2013 or something when they first went to Minnesota. They both signed 13-year deals, and they got bought out, and I think they're going to count against the cap for like 6 or 7 seasons. Like, it is going to hurt them for a while, and they are going to have a buyout penalty in the next couple of years of like $15 million against their salary cap. So they're going to have a cap penalty that's like almost a quarter of their team's salary. And when they got to pay players like Kirill Kaprizov, Matthew Boldy, like they got some money that they're giving out to some players. They're going to have to get rid of some players as well. Their team is going to start to go in the decline. I don't see Minnesota being good long term, but as for the deal itself, like I don't have a problem with it because Matthew Boldy is a really good player, and I think he's going to be a stud for a few years to come, so I don't have a problem with the contract itself.
So I got Cap Friendly open. Shout out Cap Friendly because this is one of the best websites you can go to. If you're a hockey fan and you're interested in this kind of stuff, man, this is the best website to go to. So the Minnesota Wild right now have 3.7 mil free in cap space, which is, it's all right. That's not a terrible number right now. For big name contracts, they don't have a heck of a lot that they have to re-sign. The only ones with 1 year left, the big one obviously being Matt Dumba. But Ryan Reeves, Frederick Gaudreau has actually been having a decent season. Sam Steele, like nothing crazy like big names for these 1 years left. But yeah, as you were talking about, I'm looking at their dead cap, and Zach Parise and Ryan Suter combined will affect they affect 12.7 mil this year. Next year and the year after is 14.7 mil. So that's $15 million that they're going to be out for cap for the next 2 years. And then they go towards the cap for $1.6 million for the 3 years after that. So they're going to be paying their contracts off until the 27-28 season. That is just, that is hefty. But yeah, like you said, they're going to be in a little bit of a cap crunch. Once they get free of that $14 million they're spending on Parise and Suter, that's a lot of money that opens up. But yeah, like you said, the $3.7 million, they just gave Matt Boldy a 7-year, $7 million extension, which is quite a bit, a chunk there. But as for the player, as for Matt Boldy, man, he's a sick little player, honestly. If you look at his first 2 seasons in the NHL, well, being last year and this year, In his rookie year, he had 39 points in 47 games, 15 goals. This year, he's got 32 points in 45 games, and he's got 14 goals. Now, last year, he had a plus 17. This year, he has a minus 3. A little bit of a shake-up there on the Wild. They're not playing, obviously, as good as they were last year. But in his NHL career, he's got 70 points in 90 games. That's pretty good. So, if he keeps that pace, obviously that $7 million per year is going to be a pretty good contract. If he gets better, that's going to be a steal of a contract. But that's also the thing, is that he's 21 years old. Who knows what's going to happen to Matt Boldy? He could fall off a cliff for all we know, and that contract could be one of the worst contracts in the NHL. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there's always that risk when you're, signing a young guy like that for long term. So, yeah, that is a interesting contract to say the least. 7x7. I mean, I think it's a pretty decent contract, especially if he can keep playing the way he has been. But that's all the Minnesota Wild have to hope, because if he doesn't keep playing that way, then it's going to be a rough one for the Wild. All right, Bee Rhodes. It is almost time for the 2023 NHL All-Star Game. Are you excited?
I am pretty excited to watch the All-Star Game because there's a few others going this year, and one of them I didn't think was going, but we will talk about that one.
And we will, absolutely. So we're going to read off the rosters for the All-Star Game. I'm going to read it by division, and I'm going to ask you, Bee Rhodes, if there's any player from that division you think should have made the All-Star team. And, we'll talk about it. So, let's just start with the Atlantic Division. So, in the Atlantic, the two goalies that they are running is going to be Linus Ullmark and Andrei Vasilevsky. Pretty good goalies. The forwards, we got David Pastrnak, Tage Thompson, Dylan Larkin, Matthew Tkachuk, Nick Suzuki, Brady Tkachuk, Nikita Kucherov, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews. Who do you think, is there anyone you think should have been on that team that isn't?
I'm going to give you two players, one forward and one defenseman that I think should have got the nod to go and did not.
I wonder if we have the same players, because I have a forward and defenseman as well. Let's hear it.
The defenseman I have is Rasmus Dahlin.
Yep.
I think he should definitely be in this year. The forward I have is Patrice Bergeron. I think he should also be going, but
yeah,
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Picks. Yeah, no, I agree with you on Rasmus Dahlin. He is having one hell of a season with the Buffalo Sabres. My forward I think should have made it, William Nylander. I really think, I think Willie he's been on an absolute tear this year, and I think it's kind of ruthless that he didn't get added to the All-Star game. But we got to remember, too, just a reminder for the people at home as well, every single team has to be represented at the All-Star game, so that's why you're seeing a guy like Nick Suzuki make it over, Rasmus Dahlin and whatnot. But nevertheless, yeah, that's the Atlantic Division. Let's move to the Metro Division. Our two goalies in the Metro are from the New York Islanders, Ilya Sorokin, and from the Rangers, Igor Shesterkin. Now, the players from the Metro Division, we have Andrei Svechnikov, Johnny wants to move closer to home Gaudreau, Jack Hughes, Brock Nelson, Artemi Panarin, Adam Fox, Kevin Hayes, Sidney Crosby, and Alexander Ovechkin. Any snubs, Bee Rhodes?
Ooh, I do have a forward that I think should at least get consideration based on the season he's been having. Okay. And that is Nico Hischier. I really think that he should have gotten at least of some votes to get in, because he's been point per game this year, and he's really been playing well alongside Jack Hughes as well. But I understand that why he might not have been, because like you said, players have to be represented from every team. But my forward for the Metro is probably Nico Hischier. I think he's had a really good year.
I got a forward from the Metro as well. Kind of slept on, I think, in a little bit. I got Marty Necas. He's had 41 points in 46 games this year, playing 19 minutes with the Hurricanes. And, of course, the Hurricanes being, second place in the NHL. And Marty Necas almost has 20 goals already, and we're halfway through the season. So I honestly think Marty Necas should be in that conversation as well. But I think the Metro's pretty clear-cut, obviously, other than Kevin Hayes. But the representation, baby. Let's move to the Central Division now. Our goalies in the Central Division, from the Nashville Predators, UC Saros, and from the Winnipeg Jets, Connor Hellebuck. The players we have are Clayton Keller, Seth Jones, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon, Jason Robertson, Kirill Kaprizov, Vladimir Tarasenko, and Josh Morrissey. Who's the snub from the Central?
Oh boy. Realistically, when I listen to that roster, I don't have any names that come to mind of a snub for me. Like, I think that's a pretty solid roster. Boy, if I had to pick one though. That is tough, actually. I really don't know. I don't think there's any players that come to mind. That maybe Philip Forsberg from the Predators. I think he's had a pretty solid season. I think if I had to pick a forward from the Central, it'd probably be Philip Forsberg.
I have one that I think a lot of people are forgetting is even in the NHL, let alone doing this good. Kyle Connor. My God, what a season he's having. He's got 57 points already. He's He's tied for 11th in the NHL in scoring. He's only 1 point behind Mikko Rantanen. And if you look also, he's got 6 more points than Nathan MacKinnon, who's in the All-Star game. So I think Kyle Connor absolutely got ripped off this year, and I think he should be in there as well. But that's just my opinion. Pacific Division. We got our 2 goalies. From the Vegas Golden Knights, Logan Thompson. And from your Edmonton Oilers, Stuart Skinner. Holy. The skaters we have are Troy Terry, Nazem Kadri, Connor McJesus, Leon Kreisidel, Kevin Fiala, Eric Carlson, Matthew Beniers, Elias Pettersson, and Bo Horvat. Let's talk about Stuart Skinner for a second. What do you think of Stuart Skinner making the All-Star game in his first full season?
Honestly, I think he's deserved it. To be fully honest with you, I think he's had a really solid season. I think he's been pretty consistent throughout the season as well. And he's had games where he's had a lot of shots. I actually went to Washington Capitals game with my buddy Christian. Shout out to Christian if you're listening to this. But we went to Oilers Capitals, and the Oilers were outshot 50 to 29 or 30, somewhere in there, and they only lost 3-2. Skinner kept them in the game. He's had other games too where he's faced 40 plus shots, and he moves really well in his crease. I think he's really calm in there, and I think he's just really taken a big step this year. And from the last few years in Bakersfield, he's really proven that he was ready for this step. It was basically just waiting for Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen's contracts to just be up and off the team so Skinner could come up. And I think that he's just taken the reins this year, and I'm honestly not too surprised that he's in the All-Star game this year.
Yeah, Skinner this year, he's got a .915 save percentage. 13-10-2 record doesn't really do him justice. Like you said, he has kept the Oilers in quite a few games. A .292 goals against is a little high, but obviously we know the Oilers aren't as focused on defense as they are just outscoring their opponent. So the goals against, he's kind of getting, hung out to dry back there sometimes. But like B. Rhodes said, he's had a very, very good season. He has developed very well. And I think this is kind of perfect for Stuart Skinner too, because not to say that Stuart Skinner isn't an all-star goalie, but the goalies in the Pacific this year have been dog water. They've been terrible. And it's just perfect time for Skinner to shine. So, because realistically, you look at any other team in the Pacific. Are you sending Markstrom to the freaking All-Star game? No. Are you sending John Gibbs into the All-Star game? No. LA literally just sent down their starting goalie on waivers. So, obviously, he's not doing good. So, there's really, no other good goalies in the Pacific. Not to discredit Stuart Skinner, obviously, because he has had a fantastic season, but I think it's just really good timing for Stuart Skinner. And yeah, it's going to be, a great experience for him as well, being so young and being at, the All-Star game surrounded by all these All-Stars. It's going to be cool for him. Is there any snubs on this list, you think, or not on this list?
I got one, but before I mention this, I ain't Jack Michaels. I'm no homer, but I got to mention this point. I think Ryan Nugent-Hopkins got snubbed because the last time I looked, he was 8th in league scoring. He's had a phenomenal year. He's already at 20 goals. He's on pace for a 40-goal season. Mm-hmm. I think Nugent-Hopkins probably should have got in this year, but when you're behind McDavid and Draisaitl and you have to represent every team in the league, it's kind of hard to get in. But I think Nugent-Hopkins should have been in this year if I had to pick one. But again, I'm not Jack Michaels. I'm no homer. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. I've got two. I'm going to sound like a little bit of a homer as well. I think Rasmus Andersson should have been in the conversation. He's got 33 points in 47 games. Now, he's not known for his scoring, but he plays 25 minutes a night. Like, he averages 24 minutes, 43 seconds. He's got 38 hits, 82 block shots. He's only got 18 penalty minutes this year. Like, he's such a catalyst for that Flames blue line, and I definitely think Rasmus Andersson should have been on that list as well. And then I got another guy, and it's not from the Flames, obviously. Timo Meier. What the heck? Like, I don't know why the heck Timo Meier was not in the All-Star game. He's 47 points in 48 games. He's got 27 goals this year. Like, I know the San Jose Sharks are not doing good at all, but Timo Meier is on another level right now. And the fact that he didn't get even put in the conversation, I don't know. I definitely think Timo Meier should have been in there as well. But that's my takes for the snubs. But, yeah, what do you think about the All-Star game this year, Brody? Are you excited?
I mean, I'm excited. I don't really watch a whole lot of it, to be honest. In my personal opinion, the skills competition is more entertaining to me than the actual 3-on-3 games. I love seeing like the stuff that they do, and like Trevor Zegras doing the blindfold shootout move that one year was so cool to watch. Like, I find the skills competition way more entertaining than the actual games, but yeah, I think it'll be fun. It's always a cool event to watch.
It is, yeah. It's really nice to see NHL players outside of just the NHL games. Like, we see the like the NBA and the NFL and stuff like that. They all they're so well represented. Like, they're all like all their players, like they show the players outside of the sport, and that just draws such an attraction. It makes, you know, the superstars look more human. And I think the NHL just needs to do a little bit better of job doing that, because other than like on the advertisements for NHL players and stuff like that, it's all just them playing hockey and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I want to see a little bit better representation and show them that they're human. You know what I'm saying? Show the people that they're actual humans instead of just hockey players. But all right, Brody, let's wrap it up with one more topic of conversation for this episode. We're going to talk about the playoffs. Now, I know it's a little preemptive because the playoffs are still, a couple months away. But if we were to have the playoffs today, we're going to talk about the first round matchups. And I want you, Bee Rhodes, to predict who's winning these matchups. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So we're going to start in the Eastern Conference. We're going to start with the absolute wagon that is the Boston Bruins, who are 37-5-4. They've only lost 9 games total this year, which is crazy. They would be matched up against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round. Who's taking home that first round matchup?
Boston.
Yeah. Do we even need to discuss it further?
No, honestly, like Boston's just been a wagon like all year, and like 37-5-4. Like Ullmark's like 21-1-1 or something like that. He's like on a whole nother level this year, and like Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, Taylor Hall, like Jake DeBrusk has had a really solid year too. Like Charlie McAvoy, Hampus Lindholm. Like, I could go on, man. This team is deep. They ain't getting beat in the first round. You kidding me?
25-2-1 with 2 shutouts, a .938 and a .182. That's it. That's the conversation right there. Glad you guys listened to that. Let's move on. The next one would be the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Washington Capitals. Who's taking that one home?
I'm going to say Carolina, but I do think that series is going to go the distance because they have met each other in the past playoffs. Like 2019, it went to 7. Like, they seem to always match up against each other in the first round. I don't know why. It's crazy, but I think Carolina is going to win. I think they're the deeper team. I think they're the better team, but I don't think the Capitals are going to go away without a fight, though.
I think it comes down to goaltending, really. Obviously, the Washington Capitals have Darcy Kemper, who, won a Stanley Cup last year with the Colorado Avalanche. But Darcy Kemper's performance in the playoffs was one of the worst performances by a Stanley Cup winning goalie in recent history. So I can't say Darcy Kemper is going to carry them to, at least past the first round. But the Hurricanes, man, with Freddie Anderson back, whoo, the Hurricanes are looking solid. And that's even without Max Pacioretty. Let's say they don't trade his contract and they get him back come playoff time. Oh, my God, the Hurricanes are going to be on another level, too. They're looking to absolutely fly compared to what happened last year where they didn't even win a single game at home in the playoffs. So, yeah, I'm taking Carolina in that series. But I do agree with you. I definitely think it could go the distance as well, 6 or 7 games for sure. All right, the Metropolitan matchup between the New Jersey Devils and the New York Rangers. Who takes that one?
Oh boy, this series, this could be I think it would go to 7. Honestly, I think the Rangers have the better goaltending for sure. I mean, Igor Shesterkin took this team to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. He's a phenomenal goalie. I think it's going to be difficult for the New Jersey Devils to score. However, the Devils have been playing so solid this year. They have a really solid team game, and I don't see that changing in the playoffs. I think this is a team that, they just got something to prove, and they're going to play hard every single night. They are a team that's going to be tough to play against. But if I had to pick a team, I'm going to say the Rangers, just based on the fact that I think they're more playoff experienced than the Devils, and they got to the Eastern Conference Final last year, and they are backed up by Igor Shesterkin. But I also see this series going at least 6 or 7.
I'm with you on that one. I'm going with the Rangers, and I'd take them in 7 as well. It really just comes down to Shesterkin versus Vanecek. I'm not knocking Vanecek at all. He's had a pretty freaking good season with the Devils. He's not Igor Shesterkin. We can't forget about the season that Igor Shesterkin had last year. And like you said, the fact that he carried them all the way to the conference finals. Igor Shesterkin, come playoff time, is a completely different animal. And I love the Rangers roster. You got Zibanejad, Panarin, Kreider, all these players, very talented scoring players. I just think Vanecek would crumble under pressure. I honestly think it, because the Rangers are just such a dangerous, high-octane team. Not to say that the Devils aren't, but I trust Shesterkin more than Vanecek in net. So, yeah, I'm going with the Rangers on that one, too. All right, let's move over to the Western Conference. So this Western Conference first-round matchup would be the Dallas Stars taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Who's winning in the first round, Bee Rhodes?
I gotta say, if Colorado is a fully healthy team, I think it would be Colorado. But I don't know, man. Dallas is also such a good team this year. With Jason Robertson lighting it up like he has, and they got good players outside of that too, Rupe Hintz, Joe Pavelski, Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benner still there, Miro Heiskanen. This is a really solid team as well. I think they're a deep team, and they got freaking Jake Ottinger backing them up too, and he's an absolute stud in net. And I know Colorado's the defending champs. I know you got Cale Makar, Landeskog, McKinnon, Rantanen, but I don't know. My gut is saying Dallas. I think I'm gonna take Dallas in 6.
Dude, I'm honestly on the same boat as you with that one as well. It's the same thing as the Rangers-Devils matchup. I'm taking Ottinger over Georgiev any day of the week. Colorado has weapons like McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, but I would rather be shooting against Georgiev 100%. And like you said, Dallas' team is not to be messed around with this year. With Peter DeBoer behind the net, he's obviously brought something out from the Dallas Stars, because it's pretty much the same roster that they had last year, and they are performing so much better than they did last year. We're talking now about a Dallas team that's first in the Western Conference, compared to one that was, were they a wild card? Yeah, they were a wild card team last year. So this is a completely different Dallas Stars team. And yeah, it all comes down to as well is, Colorado going to be healthy. And even if they are healthy, it's Georgiev in net compared to Ottinger. So I agree. My gut says Dallas as well. That's a really tough one as well, but I honestly think Dallas might take it. All right. Central matchup. Vegas Golden Knights. They would be taking on your Edmonton Oilers. Who's taking it?
I'm going to say Vegas. And, when it comes to the playoffs, obviously, defense wins championships, and the Oilers do not have a very good defense. It's just not good enough. Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci as your top pair is very concerning to me come playoff time. I see Cody Ceci more of, a top 4, even a third pair guy, and Darnell Nurse, I don't know, man. I really don't see him as an elite top 2 defenseman. I just don't. And I think come playoff time, you're not going to outscore your problems every single night. The games get tighter, it gets more physical. It really comes down to your depth, and the Oilers' depth just is not good enough. So for me, I think Vegas is going to win, because I think Logan Thompson has had a good year, and Vegas has Alex Pietrangelo, and Shea Theodore has missed a lot of time, but he'll probably be back on playoff time. He's a really good defenseman as well.
Yeah.
And you got some good shot blockers as well and hitters in Braden McNabb. And I think their team is just deeper with Jack Eichel, Mark Stone, William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault. They're a good team, and I just don't see the Oilers beating Vegas. I think they're going to get knocked out in the first round.
I agree. I also have two separate points that I'd like to make. Obviously, the defense is a concern, especially playoff time, because, yes, defense wins championships. However, we are about to see if this matchup were to come true and the Oilers, this doesn't matter if they're playing Vegas or not. If the Oilers make the playoffs, they're going into the playoffs with Jack Campbell, who, he was all right in the first round last year against the Lightning, and Stuart Skinner, who's never played a playoff game. That's your goalie tandem going into the playoffs. Now, is it a bad goalie tandem? No. But the only problem is they don't have the supporting cast in front of them on the defensive end. And that's the thing, is that you're going into the playoffs with one goalie that's actually had experience, the other one who's a rookie, and you have a weak defensive core in front of them. I think it's going to be a nightmare, honestly, for the Oilers' defense and for the Oilers' goalie in that situation. Another thing, too, and I hope you don't get mad at me for saying this, Brody. I hope I'm sure you know it's true, but the Oilers are a power play merchant. They ride on the power play. They score a power play goal every single night, and the whistles go away. The whistles go in the pockets in the playoffs. The Oilers aren't going to get as many power play opportunities, and they can't depend on that to be the reason that they win games. So that's another big factor for the Oilers. The Oilers scoring 5-on-5 has honestly gone up. It's gotten better, but the power play is still a key contributor to the Oilers' success, and that's another thing that, they're not going to have as much come playoff time. So that's definitely something to watch out for the Oilers as well. But, yeah, I'm taking Vegas in that one. I think, obviously, Edmonton would make it, a battle, and I definitely think I could go to 7, but I'm still taking Vegas over the Oilers in that matchup.
How dare you say they're power play merchants?
It's true,
you're totally right. I mean, that is straight facts. I just felt like saying how dare you, but you're right.
All right, let's talk about the central matchup. It would be the Winnipeg Jets versus the Minnesota Wild. Who are you taking, Bee Rhodes?
This is going to be a close series as well. I think both teams are very good, but for me, I'm going to say the Winnipeg Jets, and the reason I say it is because I would rather have Connor Hellebuck in my crease than Fleury at this point in time. And I think the Jets are still a really good team in front of Connor Hellebuck. They got Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Ehlers is back too. That's
Nikolai Ehlers as well, Josh Morrissey. This is a very good team this year.
You said his name wrong, by the way. It's Josh Norrisy.
Oh,
because he's winning the Norris this year.
But yeah, and yeah, I would rather have Connor Hellebuck back in that the team in front of me up than I would Marc-Andre Fleury. And to me, I'm going to take Winnipeg. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going with the Jets.
Brody, you absolutely schooled me in an earlier episode this year. I'd like you to know that. So we were talking about the top 5 teams in the NHL and who was going to rise and who was going to fall. And one of those teams we were talking about was the Winnipeg Jets. And I said that the Winnipeg Jets were going to crumble this year. I said they weren't even going to make the playoffs. I said they were going to be a bad team. And you held out hope. You told me it was going to be a new team. They were going to bounce back. They were going to be so much better than they were last year. And damn, you were so right. Because the Winnipeg Jets are currently tied for 5th in the NHL with the Dallas Stars. And they have looked like such a better team than they did last year. Even though they really didn't make any notable roster changes. This team is firing on all cylinders, and they have such a complete system right now. And yeah, wow, the Winnipeg Jets, yeah, they would roll the Minnesota Wild for sure. They would, yeah. I don't even see Minnesota putting up a fight in that series, honestly. So I just like to let you know, Brody, that you were right, I was wrong.
Never question Bee Rhodes.
Never question Bee Rhodes. Lesson learned. All right, the last matchup of the first round, if it were to start today, a spicy one. The Seattle Kraken versus the Los Angeles Kings. Who's taking that matchup, Bee Rhodes?
Ooh, boy. This is one that is actually pretty hard to predict. Seattle has been a very big surprise this year. They've been a really solid team. Matty Beniers is a phenomenal player. Like, he's gonna have a great career, but I don't know, just the players around him, like Burakovsky, Jordan Eberle, like, I don't know, they just have a good, talented team. And then Vince Dunn has had a phenomenal year as well. He's taken a huge step this year, and I don't know, man. Like, Seattle, for some reason this year, there's just something different about them. And Grubauer has been pretty solid in net this year, and Martin Jones has been good as a backup as well. But LA is also a good team, man. Like, they're just been consistent this year, and Todd McClellan is a great coach too. And like, they pushed the Oilers to 7 last year. Like, they were a playoff team, but I don't know. I'm just gonna go with my gut on this one. I'm gonna take Seattle.
Let's go, baby. Go Kraken. Yeah, this is who would have thought that this would be the hardest one for us to predict, this playoff matchup? But yeah, I like it. I my gut's kind of saying the Kraken as well. You know, it's wow, they've been scoring at will as well this year too. They've had 4 separate games this year where they've scored 8 or more goals, and yeah, their whole team just as a unit has taken such a jump. Like, Grubauer's had a better bounce back season, like you said. Martin Jones as well, like you said, has been a solid backup for them. They have, you know, a decent blue line on their team, and bringing in Burakovsky and the growth of Matty Beniers, and yeah, their team's actually pretty sick. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like the Kraken. So I don't know. The Kings are still iffy because while Seattle's goaltending hasn't been, you know, the best, the LA's has been far from it. And that's another big thing too, is are you going to get, you know, prime Johnny Quick like he was in, you know, the first round last year against the Oilers? Or are you going to get regular season Jonathan Quick, who's just been not good this year? Phoenix Copley's been a really good asset for the LA Kings this year too, but that's another goalie that has 0 playoff experience. And are you going to ride on that in the playoffs? Like, that's another tough thing for the LA Kings. So yeah, I like your choice with the Kraken. I think I'm going to take the Kraken as well. I think it's a sweet little pick, you know what I'm saying? All right, Bee Rhodes, I think that about sums it up for our first episode back, our first episode of 2023. Do you have anything to add before we wrap things up?
I don't really got anything to add, man. That's pretty much it for the episode, to be honest.
Yeah, a lot of news in the NHL, and of course, we'll be bringing you guys back an episode every single week, and you can catch our podcast on any streaming platform of your choice, whether it be Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even on YouTube as well. If you guys enjoyed the podcast, if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button. If you guys are on other platforms, make sure to follow us. Turn on those notifications so you'll be notified every time we upload a new episode. And yeah, we appreciate every single one of you for listening to the Cherry Pickers podcast. My name's Zuu. I've been joined with Bee Rhodes, and we thank you for listening. Take care.